5 seconds to go. Start. Thank you, sir. I rise to speak on the weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Amendment Bill 2022, brought by our Honorable External Affairs Minister. This is a very old act. In 2005, when this act was passed, it banned only manufacturing of weapons of mass destruction. Sir, the bill seeks to provide for provisions against financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems so as to fulfill our international obligations. The United Nations Security Council's targeted financial sanctions and recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force have mandated against financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destructions and their delivery systems, and this bill has been brought in this background. Sir, when it comes to preventing weapons of mass destructions and proliferation, we need to be conscious of both state and non-state actors. Money laundering, terrorist financing, and financing for proliferation of weapons of mass destruction can have negative effects on a country, which may include increase in violent and organized crime and corruption. From an international perspective, it can result in loss of reputation in the international market, loss of donor functioning, loss of foreign direct investment, and loss of credibility for the financial sector. Therefore, identifying, assessing, and understanding proliferation financing risks on a regular basis is very much essential. Sir, India has always made its position clear on this issue. India opposed signing the NPT and CTBT for valid reasons. India had campaigned for imposing a ban on nuclear weapons testing for a long period. In 1954, India initiated a global call at the UN Disarmament Commission for putting an end to nuclear testing and a freeze on fissile material production. In 1978 and 1982, at the special sessions on disarmament, India proposed banning nuclear testing. In 1988, India introduced an action plan for the time bound elimination of nuclear weapons. However, in 1993, India took a different course and opposed the treaty on the ground that it is silent on destruction of existing nuclear stockpiles. The treaty also does not contain any time bound program for destruction of nuclear weapons, thereby leaving nuclear disarmament solely to the discretion of nuclear weapon states. Sir, India underlined the importance of the Chemical Weapons Convention and the Biological Weapons Convention as examples of non discriminatory treaties in the field of disarmament for the total elimination of specific types of nuclear weapons of mass destruction. India reaffirms that disarmament is a primary goal of Chemical Weapons Convention and should remain a priority till the complete destruction of all chemical weapons is achieved. India is a responsible nuclear weapon state and is committed as per its nuclear doctrine to maintain a credible minimum deterrence with the posture of no first use and non use against the non nuclear weapon states. At the UN, India supports the full and effective implementation of Chemical Weapons Convention and emphasizes the strengthening of the OPCW to fulfill its important mandate. The present bill is in our national interest and in accordance with our international obligations. I, on behalf of my party Biju Janata Dal, support this bill. We always support any step in the direction of our national security and global peace. In fact, our Honorable Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik ji has advocated for inclusion of ahimsa, that is, non-violence, in the preamble to our constitution. That will strengthen India's position as a leader of peace. With these words, I support the bill and conclude. Thank you. Sir, I rise to support the weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Amendment Bill 2022. The bill, under Clause 2, seeks to insert a new section, Section 12A, which reads out that no person shall finance or provide financial services for any activity which is prohibited under this Act or under the United Nations Security Council Act 1947 or any other relevant act for the time being in force or by an order issued under any such act in relation to weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems. Sir, I have two small apprehensions on this bill, and I am sure that through my discussion over here, those points would be addressed. In Resolution 1540/2004, the Security Council decided that all states shall refrain from providing any form of support to actors that attempt to develop, acquire, manufacture, possess, transport, transfer, or use nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons and their means of delivery, in particular for terrorist purposes. The resolution requires all states to adopt and enforce appropriate laws to this effect, as well as other effective measures to prevent the proliferation of these weapons and their means of delivery to actors, in particular for terrorist purposes. Nonetheless, detecting proliferation relevant illicit financing is even harder than detecting money laundering or terrorism financing. The risks posed by weapons of mass destruction stem not only from ready-made bombs, nuclear, chemical, or radiological material, but also from dual-use goods and technology that are traded, shipped, and used globally. Even the components for nuclear power reactors that generate electricity rely on dual-use components and technology that can be used in a nuclear weapons program. You can find these things in laptops, transistors, and in instant coffee maker also. The same technology is used, which short of is related to the same matter that we are discussing here. A common perception within the private financial sector is that proliferation financing controls refer to the implementation of country specific sanctions, for example, those designed to prevent North Korea and Iran from tapping into the global financial system for proliferation activities. However, country specific sanctions should be seen as integral but not the only part of proliferation financing controls. Financial institutions are aware of UN Security Council resolutions, though they are not always well equipped to implement country specific ones. Moreover, sanctions implementation is the limited capacity of financial institutions to distinguish proliferation activity. Financial institutions see only a small part of data related to a given transaction and they do not have the technical expertise to distinguish what is proliferation relevant and what is not. So, that is a very difficult thing for financial institutions to figure out, and that is something that has to be taken into consideration. One of the most important areas for the government to work upon is on informing the private sector promptly to match changes in UN designations of entities and individuals. For example, if the UN Security Council designated new entities or individuals as proliferators, but a given country failed to update its list, what happens is that these financial institutions continue to trade with these entities because they are not made aware of these changes in time. So, that is also something that needs to be considered. Stop.